Hello, ladies. Nice to meet you. Um, there's a lot going on anymore that blogging isn't what it used to be, but I think that blogging still matters. And I want to help you get yours started if you'd like to. Now, does anybody in here already have a blog? Sort of halfway? Yes. Yeah, that's okay. I totally understand what that means. I've been doing this for a while in all sorts of percentages, so I get what that means. My name is Susan Macias. I have a website, susankmacias.com. I love to write, and blogging was a way that when I did not have time to write in any other way, it gave me an outlet. And so I'm a fan of blogging for a lot of different reasons, some of which we will cover tonight. On my website, I do host my blog that I have been pretty irregular with, as I have done some other ventures this year, but that's something I love about blogging. It can pause. It's very patient. It's one of your patient children. It will sit on the couch and wait for you to get back to it, and it won't even fuss at you that you've been away too long. You can come back again and again. So, what is a blog? It actually is a version of the word web log. That's where it first came out. Now, some of us are old enough to remember Doogie Howser. Do you remember that TV show? And he would get on and type his little diary every day. That's kind of what it was like at first. The people would just kind of log things. That shortened into the word blog. And as it transformed, then it also took on new ideas. It was like an online journal. It displays information in the reverse order, which means the newest thing is the top one that comes on there, and it's a platform. It can be an individual writer or a group of writers, which is a lovely thing as well. When it feels overwhelming to think of taking on a blog all by yourself, it can be a group project. So the thing that is said now is blogging is dead. That's actually been said for several years, but that bad news, you will be glad to know, is really a bit of an exaggeration. Blogging has answered and says, the rumors of my death are greatly exaggerated. This is the increase of blogs over the last 6 years. And you will see that it increases by about 500,000 or more every year. That's the number of blogs that are on the internet. Now, that doesn't mean that every single blog is active, but blogging is very active. It is still out there, and it's used a great deal from businesses to personal. And you get to decide how you want to use your blog. Now, there's definitely more competition. As our society has gotten busier, the idea of audio has become more and more prevalent. And so podcasts are very popular. YouTube is very popular. And when blogging first started, it was the only kid on the block. Now there's a lot of competition. But having long form writing, having well thought out things that people can go and look at is a great way for people to learn. And so there's still popularity. If you want to blog and if you want to have a podcast, then having that website, you can host both in the same place. Blogging is a form of writing, and it's housed where you want to house it. And then that gives you the opportunity to do all kinds of things, because you can host all the parties you want at your house. And that's what having your own website is. That's what having a blog is. So my blogging history is long and convoluted. I've been blogging for almost 10 years. When I first started in 2010, I started on a Blogger blog. And when I got online today, I haven't used it in about 6 years. It's actually still there. So I've got to go fix that. Just added something to my to-do list. I need to take it all down. But it was at a time I had 7 kids. We were all at home. I was homeschooling. I didn't have time to have this regular writing. And so I started blogging. It was something I could do when I couldn't do any other writing. And I could have an idea and I could whip out a blog and put it up. And then when I went back and looked at it later and I saw a typo or I saw something else, I could go back in, fix it, update, and it was fixed. It was perfect for where I was at that point in my life. So this was my first iteration. It was on Blogger. I have several since then, but now I have a website and I'm going to tell you about these different services, but I use a website called Squarespace. And my website is now my name, SusanKMacias.com. That first blog was called Whatever Lord, like whatever Lord, kind of, it was that idea of our life with the Lord. So this is my website now. I have a page, and if you look, you can see at the top the menu. So on my blog page, if you scroll down, it just has these graphics all the way down, a picture and a title for each blog. And I also have then a page, and you can see that here for the podcast. So now I have a podcast. I was able to just add it onto my website. That's the great thing about these. They're very versatile. When we say have a blog, that is writing, but you have to host your blog somewhere. It has to have a home. And on that home, you're able to do a lot of things. If you have products you want to sell, it's a great place to sell products, but you don't have to. There's a great deal of freedom, and there's a great deal of personal application in having your own website. You get to do with it what you want to do with it. And there's lots of advice. People love to give advice about all the things you should and shouldn't do. There was a time period where you were supposed to only have short blogs because that was the only thing that Google was going to honor when people searched. Now they say 1,200 or more words it's honoring long blogs. So, there's games to play. But outside of that, it is an opportunity and a place for you to write and for you to put it up for the people that find it, whether it's thousands or whether it's a few. When we look at this room, this is a valuable hour that I can spend with you. And we have 8 people, 9, 10 with Bethany and I. And if I only got 10 views on a blog, that would be really low. I usually am going to reach a lot more people than that. I'm not reaching thousands, but it is a way to get words out to places that I couldn't in any other way. So why should you start a blog? And I think that your blog can matter very much. And these are the reasons I think your story matters. Your story is different than anybody else's story. What you do and what you care about is different than what anyone else exactly cares about. We're all different. But we then, because of our story, have a special message to tell. Your take on any subject is going to be unique to you from your life experiences, from your history. We have a society now that never wants to ever be offended in any way. But a blog is a place where we can put our opinion out. And you can do it from your perspective. And you have the opportunity to give enough explanation as to why you think that. Not just throwing out an opinion with no validation underneath it. A blog is a place to give your story, your take. It's a place for your words to be recorded and kept, whether it's for your family or your friends or your church or your community, or just a place that somebody might find. I have very old blogs that people still find and read. It's still there. It's a history that doesn't go away. Our world needs positive voices and positive stories. And so you have a chance to add to the noise in having beautiful noise that you're putting out into the world. You have a chance to add good words into the world. And your words, your stories, your articles, your opinions, they may give light to someone that's struggling. Because they can say, you know when you struggle with a problem and you feel like you're the only one in the world that struggles with that problem. Everyone else knows how to get their laundry done and folded and put away, and you're the only one. And then all of a sudden you write a blog article and you write about the struggle of laundry. And somebody can say, oh my gosh, I feel the exact same way. And it gives them hope. That's what our stories can do for other people. They can give hope. They can give inspiration. They can give information. Okay, I've struggled with laundry all my life, but these are the 3 things I have found that make laundry easier. And then you share those little gems that you've learned. And there's some other benefits we're going to go over next week, because I think there's some amazing benefits to blogging that are very personal, and that can benefit those around us, that they're not the obvious ones. We'll go over those next week. So why does blogging matter to me? It's something I keep coming back to. Even when I take big breaks, I come back to blogging. Why do I think it still matters? It has pushed me to a higher quality of writing, but I haven't had the pressure of a gatekeeper. What does that mean? Before, if I was going to write and have my article seen by anyone, I had to submit it. I had to send a query letter. I had to go back and forth with magazines. I had to work to get one article. So there would only be a few articles a year. I just never could get that ball rolling. But with this, I could get the message out. But since I knew somebody was going to read it, it pushed me a lot more than just writing something to store in my computer at home. Somebody might read this. That level of pressure made me level up my writing. It gave me practice on writing. No matter how many people read it, I was writing a lot more words than I would have otherwise. And there's an amazing thing that happens with all of that practice. You know what happens? We become a better writer. And so blogging is this great writing gymnasium where we get practice doing it. The history is recorded. I can go back and read some of those blogs from the early days, and I've always written from a Christian perspective. I can see things I was struggling with then, what I've learned, prayers God's answered, all kinds of things, because I have this history of these amount of things. I have journals, but it's much harder to find something. Like, you can't have a search bar for all your journals, right? You know, you've just got to flip and try to find the right day and year. But there's a search bar on your blogs. And you can put your own words in, and it'll pop up your old blog from 6 years ago, and you can reread it. Your family has your history recorded as well. But there's not the pressure. It's not the pressure that you find in other writing experiences of trying to get something published. So there's both it made me level up, but it also took a level of pressure off that gave me the freedom to write and post. I will tell you, those first times I would post, you get it all done, and you can save it without posting it on your website. And so then I fix it some more. And finally hitting the post button was terrifying. It's almost like, well, I hope no one reads it. No, wait, I hope people read this. No, I don't want anybody to read this. You're putting your words out there for the world. But it is a great way of having that freedom to go out. Maybe no one will look at it, and that almost feels good. It's a place for opinion without the poison, the vitriol of social media. If you put your opinion out now, it's like you just put a big target right here on your chest and said, hit me. So this is a place that you can discuss what matters to you in a well-reasoned way that could have things that follow after it. This is why. And you have to approve the comments that come in that you put up. You can say, no, that one comment's not going up on my website. And so there is a controlled conversation. I like to allow both positive and negative comments. I'm okay with that. I'm just not okay with spewing. Like, do that somewhere else, not on my website. So there's a great value there. That matters to me. And this is something I will tell you that matters the most to me. Now, I haven't been writing much, so most of this is old articles. I don't have big numbers at this point, but I have 8 reads from Malaysia and 18 from the Philippines and 11 from South Africa. I get on here and I see places like Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, and I think, my words are going to places I could never go. That's the greatest thing ever to me. My words are not contained by my location. They are on a medium that does not have gates. It is able to go everywhere. And so this is my greatest thing I love about blogging. So you might be asking, how do I start? Okay, I'm going to start a blog. How do I start? So the first and most important thing, the main thing we're going to talk about tonight, is you have to find a home for your blog. Your blog doesn't just, float. It has to live somewhere. And so you have to find the service that works for you and your needs and your budget to have a blog. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is Blogger. This is the first one I use. This is a free service. And you get on and you have to have a Google account, but as you log into Google, then you can create this blog on there. They have designs. You can choose between designs. You have options of looking around and seeing what you want, and you can work that way. One of the things you have to think about, we'll talk about this in various places over these next slides, is having a domain. What is a domain? www.whatever.com, .org, .me, .whatever is your domain. It's your address. Your address is for people to find you. So everything is going to be on your domain. Well, that sounds easy, but you have different options with domains. On all of the services that I talk about, you can get something that's free, but it's going to cost you in advertising for that company. So if you have a free one, it would be, like if I used my name, it would be www.susankmacias.blogger.com. It would say, I'm on Blogger to everybody that comes to it. It would have ads, possibly, for Blogger or for other Google products on the website as it goes. The great thing is it's still going to give you analytics. Analytics is a word you hear all the time if you get into anything that you read about blogs. Analytics is saying this is what works and this is what doesn't work. In the third session that I do, I'm going to talk more about analytics and SEO and all of the things for people to find it. I have never paid attention to SEO because I could pay attention to my laundry, my children, my husband, and I could write, but I couldn't pay attention to SEO at the same time. It's just too much. So I have begun doing that because finally my kids are all grown. But you can do things, you can use this analytics in order to figure out what works. What are people reading? What words are they searching for? How are they finding your blog? All of this is on the back end of your blog, and that's how they find that out. One of the things Blogger does is that it gives you an opportunity to store these posts, the photos, all those things that you put up are stored. And Google has massive, massive storage. Where is all the storage? I don't know. Where's the cloud? I don't know, but it's there. And so that's a place that you can have it, and you can your family can have access to those pictures. You can share it with them. So what are some of the advantages to Blogger? It's free. It's also easy. Blogger is basically more basic, and it's the easiest form of starting your own website or your blog. Now, it doesn't have, I have not been on what I could do on Blogger now, and I couldn't quite find, will they let you have a number of pages, such as having a blog page and a podcast page and a contact page? I'm not sure about that, but it is easy. What are its disadvantages? You need a Google account. If you do not already have a Google account, a Gmail account, you would have to get that to have it. And there's all the arguments that you don't really own the words. If it is a Google account and a Blogger account, they actually own your words, they say. I mean, what do they do with that and how does that work? It gets messy. So most people, if they start on Blogger, end up moving somewhere else when they're getting more views and it's getting more serious. They might want to use their blogs to launch into a book, use some of those blogs to put together for a book, then they tend to get off Blogger. Because we're not sure if it's Google or Amazon that owns the world, but it's one of them. And so we want to make sure that they don't own all our words. And they have just more limited on designs. So the next thing is the big daddy of blogs, and that is WordPress. WordPress is, it's the IBM, it's Ford, it is the big one. They have free options. They have low priced options. And you can create your website there. And they make it look like it's very easy. WordPress, the word sort of gives me hives. Now, I will tell you that having, they keep working. They have a lot more competition now, and so they're having to work to get things. But WordPress is like this huge foundation upon which you have so many options of which to build. And if you have all those options to build, it gets complicated quickly. You can customize your domain name, and what's your address. And you'll see this right here, bring your own domain. So we'll jump into this here, and then I'll get a little more into it later. But you have options on everything, which is part of what makes all of the blogging and having a website a bit of a headache. Because the more decisions there are to make, the harder it is. But you can buy your domain usually from whatever place you host, or you can go buy your domain name today without having a website, without putting your address anywhere. It's like buying your lot but not building a house yet. So you can go to companies like GoDaddy and HostGator and other places like that and buy your domain. I own several domains that I don't have websites for, just in case I want to. You have to buy a domain, or you can do it through this. There's domains, and then there's hosting. Hosting is part of what you pay for, and we'll talk about this as we get into some of the prices. Here's the deal. Let me tell you, I know as much as I needed to know to figure out my domain and figure out my hosting. And then I put that in a little box and put it like up in the attic, and you're not really sure what's in that box anymore. So it's dusty. And as I was doing this, I'm thinking, it's just kind of, as you're doing it, you figure it out. But you have to buy your domain, and you have to pay for hosting every month. It's like renting the party room. Or you can have a free account on almost everything. That's the hosting is free, not the domain. You still need to get your domain. Some of these will have a free domain if you let them put .blogger or .wordpress. WordPress is the same way. You can have a free domain, but WordPress will be in that domain, the word WordPress. Does that make sense? Any questions about domain and hosting? Because it's just one of those. Okay. So WordPress has the most options that you're going to find because it is highly customizable, which was for me part of the problem. They have the free plan. They also have these other plans. This is per month, but you can see it's billed yearly. So they tell you what it is per month, but you have to pay at one time on the year. So as you can see, there's just the more you pay, the more you get. So if you have the thing that I saw on here that would be very difficult. Okay, if I can try to explain. On WordPress, it's a very blank canvas. You have to pick a theme to build your website. And this is where WordPress takes a turn that none of the others take. WordPress, there are so many companies that build themes that you can buy, because to actually build a theme on WordPress is very challenging for it to look like you didn't build it, right? Like I had a WordPress site, and it looked like I created it. And I'm not the computer person as far as creativity on the computer. And so you can get a theme. And so this on the $8 a month has these themes. Okay. It had the themes, premium themes that it has. What it does not have is this, plugins. Plugins are WordPress's thing that people can create, all kinds of people. And then they offer them. They're available to you to buy, to add to your website. There are over 50,000 plugins. What's a plugin? Well, it might be it's the computer code that makes your website do something. It might have a sign-up form. It might have a connection to something else. It might have a way to search through your computer. It can be something that no one ever sees, but that gathers data in certain ways on the back end. Might be something that does certain things to your pictures or your videos. It's all kinds of plugins. And what I found as I was doing my WordPress site is that plugins can argue with each other and make everything slow down. So you really have to know what you're doing as you're adding them in, which I didn't know what I was doing. So it has WordPress's advantage. It's the most robust. You are going to be able to do anything with a WordPress site. It doesn't have as much monthly expense on the lower end blog. Like you can get a blog to get the ads off for $4 a month. And that's a pretty low price. That's a cost. But it doesn't give you tons of versatility there. And there's no limit to the plugins you can do. You can make your website do all kinds of things. But the disadvantages is that it's the most difficult, and usually you need a designer to build it for you. If you want a WordPress website, it's great. You're either going to spend a lot of money on, a lot of people spend a lot of money on theme and then have somebody that helps them manage it on their back because it is challenging. And I don't mean to say that WordPress is bad. It's fantastic. And most people, if you're going into business and you want to have a business website, most people say do WordPress. It's the granddaddy. It's the standard. And it is. If you are a solopreneur and you are just trying to create a place for your words to live, unless you are a computer geek, you might. I associate WordPress with tears. Like it just, the level of frustration that I would get. I knew what I wanted it to do. And I watched the YouTube video. And then I do it. And then my computer, my website didn't look anything like they said it was going to. And so that for me was the frustration. You have access like a child or a niece or nephew or somebody that would love to build you a website for free, it's a great option. So you just know that it requires more on the back end. Wix is a very popular company. They are, these last two that I'm going to talk about have been the response to the tiers associated with WordPress. What are we going to do for all these people that want a website but can't afford thousands of dollars to have somebody design it and hundreds of dollars for somebody to maintain it every year? So Wix is a website developing it. It comes with, here's your options. You choose one and you customize it to yourself. They have a focus on blogging. So they have options, web, like themes are in WordPress. They have their styles that are going to be more associated with blogging. And they have this nifty little how to create a blog for free. So they do have a free version. It's going to have Wix in it, and it's going to have Wix ads on it. That doesn't bother you. That's a great way to get to start something and have it for free. You can always upgrade. If you find one you like, you can start it for free on any of these. And you can say, I like this. I like the back end of this. You know what? I'm going to upgrade to that page so I can take off the Wix ads from it. And then all your content's already there. And, so that's a great way to start, like kind of like the test run on it. These are the costs for Wix. So you can see they say, for personal use. But then entrepreneurs, freelancers, you're getting up to $18 a month and on. You can see the storage capacity goes up with the price. The hour of video you can have, and this is all per month that you can have. If you're planning on doing a bunch of video, then that is, could potentially be an issue. And if you get on Wix, there's lots more on this chart. But this was to give you an idea of how much they are a month. Advantages, more designs, it's plug and play. You kind of choose it and you do it. Disadvantages, So for many years, Wix has been deemed as having SEO issues, that they somehow didn't talk well with the search engines. I think that that is fixed. From what I have read about it, it seems to not be as much of an issue anymore. It's a very popular hosting place and web design place. But just check into that, because you want to make sure everybody can find your stuff once you get it out there. Squarespace, this is what I use. This was why I stopped crying when I had to work on my website. My daughter told me about it. She had her website on here for a while. She does photography, so very visual. Squarespace was originally designed for artsy people. Therefore, it's pretty, I think. And so that's kind of its claim to fame. They have a whole way to create a blog. They have different design families, and you look through and you choose which one you want, and then you can customize it. You can get in and change colors and do stuff that you want, which would happen also on Wix and other things. The nice thing, and I assume Wix would be the same. I haven't used Wix, I don't know. On Squarespace, I have changed my theme. I think I'm on my third one. When I was ready for an update, I was able to say, I want it to look a little different. I'm ready for a little freshen up, you know, like you paint your house every now and then. So you can work on it and update it, and you don't have to put it live until you have all your changes, and then you can hit the button and it goes live to your new theme. And all of your material is still there, just the way it looks. So that's a nice thing. It's a very visually pretty option. They also have their little how to start a blog thing. The one thing I also liked about Squarespace, which I'm sure Wix has as well, there's always, you can go to YouTube and find a video to do anything, right? Like you put it in. But Squarespace has a very good help tutorials, and you can go to the subject, and a lot of times they had videos. So that was helpful to me. And so you go through and set it up. And this is the monthly pay. It's pretty comparable to Wix. I needed the commerce at this point just for some of the other things I needed to do. And so this one is nice in that you can see it isn't $26 a month billed annually. It's if you pay for the whole annual thing, you actually save 25%. So I just pay every year, and it's a little bit less. It's beautiful designs. It is easy. It is designed to be easy. It does change often. I don't know why everybody has to constantly be improving everything. But, you know, I'll get on and all of a sudden things will be different. And it can get expensive. So are there too many options? Yeah, this is not all there is. If you get on and say, I want a free website, I want to start a blog, there will be lots and lots of options. These, I believe, are good options for anybody to start with. One of these would be a good choice. So what do? And here's what I want to tell you. Just start. The hardest thing is to go from thinking about it and planning it and researching about it to actually starting. I have done 3 of these. I started with Blogger, and then I went to WordPress, and then I went to Squarespace. All of them have tutorials. How do you get your blogs from WordPress to Squarespace? And then you do some little magic on the back end, and all the blogs come over. So I didn't lose any of my material. I just changed. I tried, and when it didn't work, I tried something else until I found the one I liked. And it's just like we all like different restaurants, right? We all like different flavors. I love to go eat Thai food. My husband doesn't. So, you know, that's flavors. You find the one that works for you. Because if the idea of getting on the back end of your website gives you a headache, guess what? You won't get on the back end of your website. And if you don't get on the back end of your website, you will never write a blog. That's where the magic writing happens, right? What we see on that page of the blog is that's the visual. But you've got to log in on the back end, and that's where you put in all your writing and you put in your titles, and you put in your pictures, and you put in your other things. And so you want to be able to find one that works for you. There isn't a right or wrong. There's a go ahead. Get the one that you'll use. That's the best idea. So how are you going to start a blog? Here's the biggest advice from someone who makes things as hard as possible. Don't make it any harder than it has to be. Like, you're not having to start a blog that will appeal to 10,000 people and that can handle that volume of people coming to it. You just need to start a blog. You need to start something so that you have something to improve, right? So as we get going, we can make it better. But you have to start. This is with writing. Now, I say you have to write something in order to be able to edit it, right? You can't edit an empty page. You have to write something, even if they're not very good words. We'll get started on the blog. The first thing you need to decide is, what do you want that domain to be? Do you want it to be personal, or do you want it to be about a subject? And that's very dependent upon what you're doing. I was a subject first. I was just, doing sort of an opinion blog. It didn't have a strong direction. It was whatever, Lord. It was just kind of that life going through. When I decided I was going to self-publish a book, I was going to write, I was going to try to do more, I decided to do my name to brand me as an author. So that's when I changed to my name being my domain, instead of having, a title. If you want to have something that's more of a subject based, and maybe you want other people to be able to come and guest blog on there, so that helps get more material out there and you don't have to write every single word, then maybe you want a subject. But you have to decide your domain to start. It's not very easy to change domain. It's a lot easier to change your host than it is to change your domain, because you got to redo the whole thing. So spend some time thinking and deciding that. And then think about, what type of blog do you want to do? What subject do you want to attack? Do you want to have options? Maybe you want to do some that are recipes, and some that are funny stories, and some that are, about your kids. Maybe you want a blog that's mainly for your family, that tells the history of what was happening. Maybe you have a craft or something that you do that you want to help others do. So you got to think about what type of blog you're going to do. What is the subject matter you're going to tackle that will help you move forward? Because the hardest thing is to go, oh gosh, it's another week, I've got to write about something. What am I going to write? But if you have a subject that you're writing about, then you can brainstorm on that subject. You can find somebody that also talks about that subject that would come guest blog on there to help you have a week to keep it going, even if you aren't up to writing that week. Plan on a schedule. It is so much better, and I say this from vast experience of not doing this. This is hard-won information. Just plan on when you're going to do it. Are you going to post once a week? Are you going to post every other week? You're going to post once a month? You decide. Decide your blog writing time. This was also something I didn't do. It takes time. If you want to have a blog written and edited and add a picture and do those things, it's going to take 3 to 4 hours. I mean, maybe you're Speedy Pete, but it takes a little bit of time to do all that, to do those steps. And so you need to know when that's going to happen. Maybe you don't have the kind of weeks that you can say, I know I'm going to work on it on Wednesday after lunch from 1 to 4. But on the weekend, when am I going to do it? And we'll talk about in that third session also about batch writing, which means doing a bunch at one time, because it's much easier to write a whole lot about a subject and divide it up than every week coming to that big blank page with the cursor blinking at you going, okay, what brilliant thought do you have to share today? Because then it's very hard. You got to decide on your platform, and this is that idea. Who's going to host you? You got that domain, you have the name, and who is doing the hosting? Now, it can either be, here's where you have another decision point. Your domain you have to buy, and you can do it almost, I think, on every blogging platform, whether it's Wix or WordPress or whatever. But you can also either pay your website for hosting, or you can pay like Bluehost or one of those others. And this is where it gets a little murky on me, that what does the Squarespace do and what does the hosting do? I figure it out, I made it happen, and I haven't thought about it for 4 years. I tried to do enough research to be able to explain it to you, and I still can't. But there's different levels of that go on. In the netherworld, where they're all speaking to each other up there through the wires and the clouds and the things. And so you have to have hosting that's usually done through your website, your like Squarespace or Wix, but there's also other hosting. So they will make that clear to you. Usually you just pay a little more for it on top of your monthly charge. There's a fantastic guide that I found that I would highly suggest. This is firstsiteguide.com/start-blog. It's a long article, and it has great advice. And it kind of goes step by step. It is goes through all the things of what you need to do. There's a ton of information on online that you can find. And if you put in YouTube, the hard part of where we are now is that there's so much information that it's hard to feel like you've ever done enough research to know if you know enough to get started. And I would just say that you'll know if you know enough when you start, and if you make a mistake, that's something else you need to learn, and so you learn it, and then you go to it. But there's lots of things I didn't need to know until a couple of years down the road. And so getting started helps you understand what questions to answer. Does everybody have that down? I don't want to. So then you start. You're not just in the starting block, you're in the race. And we're all in there together. And people with blogs can help each other. And we can help advertise each other's works and each other's words. And getting in the race is the only way to actually have the words that you can get out there. So June 21st, next Monday, we are going to talk about the hidden benefits of blogging, because I think there's a whole lot of benefits. And then 29th is the tips, tricks, resources for a successful blog. And that's where I'll get into the little more technical about SEO, about some of those back-end kind of ideas and things that I have found help it be a little more successful, resources and that